MIDI speaker. Hello? Test, test, test? Can you hear me now? I probably should check to make sure my mic is on before I start streaming. You know, that might be helpful. Also that I turn on the TTS stuff. There we go. Okay.
We can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, I can hear you too now. There we go. What's poppin'? What's hanging? Ready to talk about some movies? Ooh! Spooky movie! It's Halloween week! That's why we're talking about GoBots! Ooh! Spooky robots! Ooh! Ooh! Yes! Ooh, robots! So hyped for robo discussion today. We got big robots that go meep morp, and tiny robots that go zip boo. All types.
I should start playing Mario Kart again.
Absolutely, you should. Oh, there you go.
Rich,
I didn't see your redemption until just now. There you go.
I put the cock in my mouth.
I put the cock in my mouth.
What? Why would you say that? Why would you say that? The camera.
I love that clip. That's a banger.
Finally.
Yeah, I give you some Subway Surfers for free too while we wait. You can enjoy the bing 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 bing.
I may go have a shower and BRB.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm cleaning this subway. It's so fucking nasty. Who shat up on the walls? This is some violent poop. Somebody ate the Wednesday cereal and just went to town back here. Oh my goodness. I'll tell you what though, they've got range. Whoever this was. This perpetrator. They've got some serious range.
Yippee, it's Shroomy. Hioa. Ian egg hype.
Hello to you two. Hiya ya 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 ya. Oh whoa whoa. Hiya ya 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 ya. Oh whoa whoa. Hiya ya 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 ya. Oh whoa whoa.
Chibidoki HUH.
This is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now. This is America. This subway remained closed for another 30 years until community funding.
Here we go.
Hello.
Hello.
What's up? Are we ready to do gaming now?
There's a Halloween one if you want to do that.
Yeah, let's do it. Fuck it. Send me the invite.
Let's do that.
Alright, that works for me. And then we can start talking about a movie. That's true. Yeah, it's true.
Oh, yeah.
Is the Halloween one like a... Where is that at? Let me see. Menu. Specials.
Do you want to go back to Shrek?
Seasonal specials. We could go back to Shrek. Let me see. Add-on is available for purchase and download. Okay, yeah, let's just go back to Shrek then.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then we'll start job, and we'll get you into here.
Mm-hmm. Send me the invite. Do it! Do it now!
Yes, I will. So first, what is your favorite Transformer?
My favorite Transformer? Oh, gosh.
Of all time.
So...
It doesn't have to be, like, from the movie.
I don't really watch that much Transformers. Is this the first... Okay, so I've seen...
I watched Transformers
I saw,
2 days ago.
I saw a single Transformers movie before this one. And that was...
Not contributing to the Fuzzmo
the last night. The last night is the only Transformers movie I've seen before this. So, and that movie was ass. that was not a good movie. So,
no, it was not.
Yeah, none of my favorite Transformers come from there. I'd say that from just like really watching this movie, my favorite, it would probably be either Megatron or Air Arachnid. I liked.
Those are both good.
Yeah, I liked Arachnid a lot in this movie. So there we go.
So can we agree instead of calling them O'Brien and D16, we just call them Megatron and Optimus for the movie?
Absolutely. I'm not calling them by their pre-names or whatever. That was like the silliest stuff from the trailer. So I was like, oh really? This is what we're going with?
Well, no, that's the canon names. Like that's their names before they became Optimus and Megatron. Like, in lore, that's not made up for the movie. Okay. So I know a good bit about lore. So, and it's not perfectly accurate to the original, just because they did some like changes to it to be better. Because before O'Brien, which is Optimus Prime was originally pretty much a librarian bot, and D16 Megatron was a miner.
Starscream is my
favorite.
Mostly
At a certain point, the energon does stop flowing, and they have to mine for it. That is completely true. Okay. And they were like best friends before they became like Megatron and Optimus. Like that is like all like actual lore. Like if we were to go based off of the comic and like regular lore and the other stuff, that's just how it is.
Sure.
So yeah, they got that right. That was good. And like I like how they changed it to be more fitting for like the movie they were going with. Because having it the way they were, it wouldn't make as much sense because then Optimus would have full access to the archives because he used to be like in canon he was originally a librarian.
Oh, okay.
Starscream, he's good. He's a good movie. He's good in this movie.
I think it's smart for the film that they have, right, to make him a miner because the mining is such an important part of the lore and the story. So it makes sense to change his character in that way. That works.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're doing even more lore, which already this film does still have a pretty heavy like expositionary like first half to it, which is not the number one thing you want to see when it comes to a fantasy film like this. You really want to get into the action, and I feel like this movie does take a lot of notes from similar like excellent like early fantasy film. So are there more like Transformers like translations here from the deep lore you want to share, or do you want to just go into like the structure of it?
Not really, since those two are like the two main characters. Their like story before is what is like more important. Like, oh yeah, Bumblebee wasn't always working down there, but like that doesn't matter much because in the context of this, it's just how it is.
Hey Tree,
but
guess what?
You wanna know my favorite part about Bumblebee?
What's up, Deez? Oh, what's your favorite part of Bumblebee?
So you know who his voice actor is, right?
Bumblebee was Keegan-Michael Key, right?
Yeah, and then. So, did you notice the little reference they did with him?
Oh gosh, it's been about a week and a half.
Remember when he was down where he was working by himself with his friends?
Yeah, Steve and whatnot.
I got a boyfriend.
Yeah, his one friend was AA-tron.
Oh, I didn't catch that when I was watching.
It's AA-tron.
That's cute. That's a nice Key and Peele reference. I like that.
I love that. Yeah,
that's a very nice nod. So, I'm gonna start going to like the thoughts about the film. I'll just start off by saying, like, I do really like the film. I think when I'm looking at like the titles and everything at the beginning, it doesn't seem to be connected to any like big animation firm that I'm aware of. It's definitely not an independent movie, but it's not like a very well set like like high profile animation firm behind this film. So
it probably was. We just didn't know it.
I think I would recognize because like the big players out there in terms of like American film animation, you've got your Pixar, DreamWorks, Illumination, and it's none of those companies. It's also not Sony Animation. That's a big one.
Yeah.
It's none of those. So I am very impressed with how quality the film is, seeing as though it's not connected to any of those like large recognizable film houses. Visually, like the fidelity of the animation is very strong. My biggest problem visually with the film is in the art style itself. There's
Rich,
your
you put the
clip,
cock in cock.
my problem with the
put the
film
cock in my
is
mouth.
in the art style being that it's really
Why would you say
oversaturated in terms of
Why
art style,
would
at
you
least for
say
my
that
preference.
as a
There's a
camera?
lot of detail going by you very fast. It's hard to pick up on any individual design just because there's 50 in any given moment on screen. So it's hard to focus on any single thing being that great. So like when I'm talking design, that also goes into some like character design too. It feels very oversaturated, but especially I think the landscapes in the film. There was just too much detail going on that it was hard for things to leave an impression on. I'll bring up because this is what's going through my mind when watching a film like this. Being a non-Transformers fan. The comparison that comes into my mind primarily at the start is to there's some to like Guardians of the Galaxy here and there, but the big one is like Robots, right? And Robots is has a fantastic art style to it. It's got a great mixture of like a robo chic with like the still having like a large amount of simplicity to it. Like it works within the animation budget essentially and the computational budget of the time. And that's just like having a better, more concise stylistic choice there makes a larger long-term impact. Like I've already really forgotten a lot about the visuals of this film, where I could tell you like beat for beat what half of the locations look like in Robots right now off the top of my head, having not seen it in over a year. So another thing I want to talk about when it comes to the visuals, so we'll just make this a visual section, is that my biggest like pro for the film on the visual side is the fight choreography. There are some banger like fight there's fight choreography is extremely important even especially in animation. You like how the characters move, the kinetics of that. So I'm not a big fan of like the character models per se for most of them. The only exceptions being like Arachnid. I think that's a much more like that's a character that their design benefits from some of the oversaturation you have going on with the style.
Yeah.
But specifically the way that the characters move and the way that they utilize their unique like structure, their unique like body shape in the film is fantastic. It is like as a big fan of animation in current year, it's extremely above standard. It's stuck out like big time throughout the film. I was just agape at how amazing a lot of the fight choreography through the film is. What are some thoughts about the visuals of the film?
So I really like it. It's a style I really like. So for one thing, I don't think since you're not a Transformers fan, you couldn't really understand it. That the reason why the characters, a lot of them look so dull at the beginning and not as much is because they didn't have their transformation cog, which, as you know, like they didn't have, so they couldn't transform. But as you saw when they got it, they changed.
Yeah.
Part of it is because like a lot of them are in mines, so they're supposed to look like greasy and dirty, and then the characters who have the cog, they're not doing as lowly of jobs of it. That's why like they're shiny, they're clean looking and stuff like that.
I personally,
So
I feel like
very,
on a visual, sorry,
intentional.
apologies to interrupt. I personally feel like honestly, like in terms of a style, like a visual stylistic choice, it's almost a downgrade when they get their cogs because again, like the oversaturation of detail just increases from that point, and it just becomes hard to pick out anything in particular that I enjoy about it, just because there's so much going on with character design. So like compare this with Spider-Verse.
I mean, that's understandable.
Yeah, but like compare it with like Spider-Verse, how every character not only has their own like unique color palettes, but also like differences in shading and the frame rate for each individual character. It leaves a much larger like impact, I feel, upon me as a viewer.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense for you. But I mean, like, remember, like, they're two different styles. It's like it's not trying to go for a style like that. I mean, so I'm gonna be honest. A lot of Transformers stuff like that, the reason why they're styled like that is because it's made by Hasbro, and it's a toy company.
Sure.
So it's gonna look like that. So it's gonna want to look like how the toys are. So a lot of like their design stuff will kind of be looking like that because of their target audience.
Mm-hmm. I will
like
add,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, on the subject of like this is a toy line. There is a recent animation film that I really dislike, and a lot of moments throughout the film definitely felt like this character inclusion is specifically to sell merchandise. I did not feel that at all in Transformers 1. I feel like every character, if they had some sort of unique element to them that would make them more marketable as a toy, it first and foremost works off well because it's just a good design for the movie. And the other film I'm talking about is like Inside Out, too. And in that film, there's so many characters that are like, what purpose do you serve in telling the story of this film besides selling a toy of yourself and making yourself making a character that's social media like bait, And for a film that literally is about characters from a toy line, the fact that it didn't feel that way is a tremendous compliment.
Mm-hmm. Wait, how is it that we're shooting like bread and candy and stuff, and that's all fine with water?
Well, this is all in the Shrek universe. This is all construction material. Funny that we're talking about an animation film while we're cleaning up a Shrek. Shrek 2 house.
No, but like this is gingerbread. It's the same thing made as Gingy. Remember, Gingy is edible.
But this is extremely thick.
Sidetracked.
The gingerbread here is so thick and strong.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Gingy himself, when he's Mondo, his individual body parts are so strong that you couldn't pull them apart. It's the increase of strength when you increase size. So it would make sense that these would be durable, structural components.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So sorry for getting sidetracked. That just came to my mind.
That's fair. So do you want to talk about the story and progression then as it goes?
I really love the story because it really shows the characters, especially with Optimus's and Megatron's development. Because Megatron was very by the book, do what we're told, stuff like that. While Optimus is very much oh, I want to do my own thing. It's just how I want to do things, And it shows them best friends, and it shows their progression from going to this one silly to a slightly serious character to the characters that most people know them as. So remember, they weren't always Optimus and Megatron. They weren't always leaders.
I'd like to so if we start from the very beginning, right? Well, their relationship as strictly minors. I definitely think that their relationship is the best
as
at the
says
start.
It best. He is worst in every way except hope. Artsy salute.
The way where Megatron is more of a rule follower, right? I need to climb the ladder in the way that the ladder is built in order to succeed as an individual. And Optimus has more of that rapscallion side to him, where you don't necessarily have to approach the world in the way that others have told you. You can make an impact. Just by trying to finding an opportunity to show somebody who you are. And I think that's definitely the strongest point where the two characters are shown together in their relationship at the start of the film. So we can talk about building into the early beginning of the film. So in terms of fantasy movies, it can be difficult to get interesting and kinetic scenes early in the movie because this is still where you're establishing a lot of the deep lore and everything. But in this movie, the way that they do it is through the race, which was the Acme 5000. Do you remember the name of that?
I don't remember.
Well, it was, but that's not a Transformers deep lore thing, right? Is that something that's actually in the lore? This race through Megatron?
Yes and no.
Cybertron?
Back before Megatron, back before Cybertron was destroyed, they would do stuff like that.
Okay. So
that wasn't I don't think that name of it that exactly was something that they always did, but yes, they would have events like that where they would have transformation races like that. Would be something they would do there sometimes.
Yeah, I did like that sequence. I feel it's a great way again to get some more kinetic movement into the film earlier on. It keeps the kids awake, but also the adults too. Adults sometimes they need something throughout to increase, add some adrenaline, into the film earlier on, and I think it does that well. It is kind of generic as far as premises go. It's just, we're gonna race around the city, and we do this once a year, and I don't have to really come up with much of a lore significance to tell you, just because races are kind of cool, And I think it works in that way pretty well, while not being too offensive. Visually, again, this is where I think this is the first time with action or whatnot, where you really get a sense for how great the kinetic animation is in that sequence. I don't think it's the craziest race I've ever seen, even not in a animation film. So I think that element itself isn't necessarily too standout. But it doesn't really need to be, and it's not really a big focus of the movie. It's more just a way to do more explanation while not boring your audience to tears. Which I think works pretty well.
It's really just to show the closeness of Megatron and Optimus, and how they would both rather lose the race together than win on their own.
When Sentinel was a fake Prime Skull
that happens. It's one of those, and it isn't second place is good, and they get second place. It's they comedically get last place after saying that.
Yeah, but they make the impression though, and that works. It's a moment where Optimus his thinking, he can demonstrate that sometimes he is right to Megatron before their breakup and everything. It's to show why in the world does Megatron trust Optimus Prime before everything happens, which I quite like. I do, when we're talking about the film from a more structural standpoint, before we get too much further in the story, I do need to bring up the voice acting in the film. And this is something I might touch on throughout, because specifically Brian Tyree Henry, who plays Megatron, has a very dynamic character. He was also in Eternals. That's primarily the biggest place I knew him from before Transformers 1. He is by far the best voice actor in the film. He's absolutely fantastic. When he increases in intensity of being serious, it's very noticeable, and he can come off as threatening very well. I quite enjoyed him as a character, and the voice acting was very well executed. Keegan-Michael Key, he does the comedic performance well. I do feel like you have so much potential here as a solid fantasy film, that this specific brand of a take over the scene comedic relief, it's a detractor from keeping you invested in the story. And I think there is a really solid interpersonal relationship at the core of this film. So for what the movie is in its current state, and I do want to talk about the editing a little bit more too. For what the movie is in its current state...
Talk about the ending.
Well, I was saying the editing, sorry. That's what I meant to say, the editing.
I thought you said ending.
No,
the editing. With
the way that the editing is, the Bumblebee character, the way it's presented works, but if we were to rework this film to be a much more serious, like the Bad Astron stuff.
It doesn't have to be serious. Remember, it's a kids movie.
It doesn't have to be, but it could be taking itself seriously. That he goes to the extent of a comedic relief character where you no longer can take that part of the film seriously at all. You can embed comedic relief into your movie because the comedy comes from the fantasy situation you've created. A great film I like to bring up with this is the original Inside Out one, which is, above all, a fantastic comedy, but all of the comedy comes from things that would really come up in this given situation. The Badassatron stuff is kind of funny in the way that this is a movie for children and he's the over-talkative children's character, but not a lot about what he says or the comedy he has comes anywhere natural from the fantasy situation you're in. So the fact that I'm making this criticism about him, he's a comedic character that works for what the movie is, but he doesn't work for what the movie could be, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But the big focus of me wanting to bring up the voice acting for this film is Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime. How do you feel about Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime? How do you feel like the job he did for this movie?
Okay. So when hearing he'd be Optimus, I didn't really think I would like it, just because he isn't like the typical deep voice Optimus Prime that he normally is. But I also had to remember that, hey, this is not a voice for Optimus. This is a voice for before he became Optimus, so he wouldn't have that deep, serious voice quite yet.
Okay.
He wouldn't be that, because remember, they're basically like teenagers in this movie.
Sure.
You're cheating
So,
on
like,
me.
I didn't think that a guy like Kura, I
XD.
told you I had to stream later.
Right, but him as
I
Optimus,
told you that, buddy.
I would say... sorry, go ahead. Keep going. Yeah.
But, like, I didn't expect him to sound the way he did, more probably because I'm used to hearing him as Thor. So, like...
You also said you would get back to me, Dot.
Sorry, Kura. After stream, we'll hang out. I'm sorry, buddy. Sorry. He can be needy sometimes. Anyways, but damn, I lost what I was saying because of you, Kura.
We're still talking about Chris Hemsworth, Optimus Prime. Yeah.
Yeah. So he did good job. At least I liked him as it. I didn't expect to like him as much as I did.
Okay.
Because like I'm used to him being the more deep voiced, serious character as like Thor is. So him being a character who isn't fully serious was like pretty nice.
Well, Thor's not always a serious character, especially later in the series.
He's not always. Yeah, but like at the beginning, like when he first was Thor, he wasn't as comedic as he is compared to like What If Thor, who is the embodiment of silliness.
So I would actually argue almost the opposite, kind of from what we were talking about. From my perspective, I when I was listening to Chris Hemsworth's voice throughout the film, even when he's still just Orion Pax, he sounded like he was adding an artificial grit to his voice. Basically, the whole movie. It's like I know the voice of Optimus Prime from the show and everything, and he's just trying to change his voice to match that. And the entire time, it felt very unnatural to me. Even from the beginning, and especially later on. It was not at all Chris. It felt like a very deep miscast. He was trying very much to be somebody he is not, and trying to have a voice that he does not. And he's also not a professional voice actor, so modulating his voice is not something he has true, like, recognizable talent for.
Yeah, that's a big problem with the industry right now, that a lot of, like, movies and stuff are going for names rather than talent. Like, don't get me wrong, some movies, like, let's go with Hercules, having Danny DeVito.
Honey, you mean Huncules.
Not usually a Huncules, yeah. But Hercules, where Danny DeVito is not usually a voice actor, I couldn't see anybody else being the satyr? I don't remember the guy's name, but I remember what he was. But, like that was one of those that he wasn't really... He did a great job with the voice. It wasn't really those, like, casting the person for the name.
But Danny DeVito...
With Chris Pratt now.
With Danny DeVito in Hercules, he's not doing the voice. He's playing Danny DeVito, right? It just so happens that Danny DeVito's voice works for this character. But for Chris Hemsworth that's Optimus Prime, he's not doing a Chris Hemsworth voice. He is hamming it up with this, like, deep, like, agree, like, like, throughout the entire film. He's got that, like, darker, like, grain to his voice that's extremely unnatural. And he does not have the requisite, like, voice acting talent to make that feel natural. And you're exactly right. It is a part of the problem with the system, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I can forgive that being a problem, because it's a very big problem. So that's really like like that in terms of voice acting. That's the biggest crime against the film. Luckily, Orion Pax, Optimus Prime, not the most interesting character in the movie. It really is Megatron. This is Megatron's movie.
Yeah. It is a lot. It's a lot more interesting for Megatron, because there's like been so many like origins for Optimus and stuff that, hey, giving like a lot of it being focused on, it's supposed to be on both, but a lot of people find the Megatron more interesting.
Yeah.
Just because
I may eat that house.
a lot of
NG
times
expect
like,
D16 / Megatron's voice to be better than I initially thought.
Yeah, I think Brian Tyree Henry cannot speak enough great things about how fantastic he was as the voice of Megatron in this film. He just like he wasn't doing entirely his normal voice, but it's obvious that he does have like voice acting craft to him. So I really just got to shout out how fantastic he was in this film. On the other hand, we really saw how limiting Chris Hemsworth can be in this film. I will say that again, I'm not really big on Transformers myself, but I think this movie, the way that it portrayed these characters, it made me invested, and it felt like I understood a bit more why people care so much about this franchise after having seen it. And that's probably the biggest compliment I can give the film, is that it made me invested after like one animated children's film into a franchise I never really thought I cared much about beforehand. So I got to give a lot of props there, but really it all comes from the Megatron side. And anything from the Chris Hemsworth part of it just was a detractor from the film. It did not really add very much to it. When talking about Scarlett Johansson's character, that's where I kind of feel like we need to have like the editing discussion now. Because if you've seen the Super Mario Brothers movie, then you'll probably recognize what I'm talking about. And that is, it has this ADHD editing to it where you cannot have any silence in the movie. And if you have silence, then it needs to be a very quick shot so we can move on to something where there's a lot of people talking.
Yeah.
And it's extremely frustrating. It takes tension away because silence is such an important method of adding tension to your movie, and it's entirely gone when every single sound, like every single moment of the movie has to be bombarding you with some sort of sound. So this movie unfortunately suffers from that problem. It's not the worst because again, it does have those elements that lean into it a bit more, but it definitely took away from my ability to enjoy the film as just a pure great fantasy story. And I think the character of the main cast who it hurts the most from this editing problem is Scarlett Johansson's character. I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
I have a list right here.
Yeah, whoever she played, because her character she's like
Alita?
Alita. So she's a serious a boss manager sort of person. She's like the hard ass character. But if the hard ass character is edited in a way where there can be no silence in the movie, then it feels so much less threatening. And it just ended up feeling like the sensation that you get when you're listening to the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies, where it's just like they sped up normal dialogue. The editing of this film, in my opinion, completely deflates her character and removes any ability for her to truly develop as an individual. So that was highly unfortunate to me. I really wish they made other choices, but it is the movie that we have. So I just need to bring that up, specifically talking about her character, because the editing of the film just absolutely deflated who she is to me. It was very unfortunate, and she just had no impact because of this.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember if she's like a regular character or she's made for the movie.
Okay.
Because there's a lot. There's not many like main female Transformer characters, because like when the first like franchise in the toys, it's a boy's toy, you know.
We will follow you.
This is a toy for all like the young boys out there. Their cars are also robots. Same line for Barbie, you know. So there aren't many like primary female characters. So I don't remember her story.
Okay.
But as a character, she's all right. She is, like you said, she's the hard ass character, which is like all right for like the kind of group they have. They have like the somewhat serious trying to be leader Orion. We have the sticking to the rules D16.
Mm-hmm.
We have the comic relief Bumblebee, and then like her being the hard ass like works, I guess.
Yeah, I would also mention that since we're talking about her character, in terms of like motives throughout the film, why the characters are involved with the story at all, hers worked, I think, some of the best for me. It made the most sense. Throughout the entire time, she had her own personal motivation for her career, and it just so happens that at about the 1/3 point through the movie, when they're stranded on the surface, that helping out Orion just worked for like her benefit. So I think that was really well done for a character. But again, just anything from Scarlett Johansson's vocal performance, anything she could try to give, is entirely deflated, in my opinion, by the way they chose to edit the film. So that's kind of unfortunate. I do believe that children can watch a movie that's not edited like this and still like it. Yeah. And I know that because Inside Out 2 was not edited like this. And that movie is one of the most successful financial movies of the entire year. So I feel like it's unnecessary, and it really detracts from any ability to try to enjoy this film. I like, even with the child brain of it all. Like I feel like it really detracts from like I'll give the disclaimer. I give this on almost every episode of our podcast that I'm a Pixar kid. I grew up watching Pixar movies, and those have shaped my life because Pixar taught me that a film can be made for a primarily child audience, but can still entertain an adult audience too. And it can have a story that captivates both. And the beauty of that is then when the child watches the film when they're young, they don't quite understand most of it, but they love it and they have a great time with it. And as they grow older, they go back and rewatch the film, and their enjoyment of it increases. They're able to appreciate the film on a deeper level, and it creates such a warm feeling. So because Pixar showed that it is possible, I now have that expectation for just about any movie that tries to do something special and wants people to take it seriously. So that's why I have these higher expectations, because there is an animation company that did so on an extremely high success rate and was able to make content that was entertaining for both. And again, as an adult, I was entertained for most of this film, but I feel like this specific like editing trend recently, it's in the Super Mario Brothers movie, it's in the Garfield movie, of just like it's got to go like on to the next thing. The children, they don't have enough attention span for two characters to talk about death and sadness like in Toy Story 2. You know, you can't have the Toy Story 2 Sarah McLachlan scene, but you can. Children are emotionally receptive, and when you have this like very fast editing style, you're downplaying the emotional intelligence of your audience, both the adults and the children. So that's my mini summed up rant of this editing trend. And I do feel like, again, with a pretty solid fantasy story you have going here, it undercuts what you're trying to convey. So we can go on, like, continue to talk about the story, right? So Megatron and Optimus Prime, the whole gang gets together. They're all on the surface now. We haven't brought up the guy. What's his name? Sentinel Prime. Yeah, we haven't talked about Sentinel Prime. So he is. This is a spoiler stream. He's the twist villain. Which I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit here. I pretty much called the entire ending of this film about halfway through, not halfway, like a quarter of the way through, because this is basically the plot of the first episode of Invincible, and I leaned over to my sibling.
Okay. If you call it like that, then I guess so.
Yeah, I
could say that.
This is basically the first episode of Invincible, feature length and for children. Which being a big superhero that everybody loves, murders everyone else and gets away with it and lives the life of like public figure maximum afterwards. And
so
go ahead.
Do you want me to break some news to you?
Yeah, hit me.
Every adult in the audience knew that he was the villain.
Yeah,
because Because you know how they call him not a real Prime. About anybody who knows at least the name of all the Primes knows, Sentinel Prime is not one of the original Primes.
Okay.
Which means he has to be a villain because he stole the title.
Gotcha. I did not have that knowledge going in.
I didn't think so. But like for like me, people who knew the lore, most people would pick up on that. Hey, he is not one of the original Primes, and because of how many Primes there are. And there's he isn't there's not many Primes who are as arrogant and stuff as him. They call him that, but he works as a character like that. But they could easily pick another character, another actual Prime to be if they wanted him to be like the hero character and not the villain.
So in reality, though, with the film, and what saves this movie from being, I'll just be straight up with you, awful. If he was the sole villain in the film, I would. This would be at about a 4 to 5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
Nothing else changed. Just him being the only a bad guy in this entire film. That would sink the entire project for me. So the fact, so the revelation being that really, after he gets defeated, that's still in the climax of the film. But before the finale, and the reveal being that's really about the separation between Megatron and Optimus Prime, and that getting to finally be the full focus. And by the guise of having this twist villain in the background, as their relationship with him change, they can really tell the true story that they're interested in at the same time. And that works super well. I'm very happy with that element. That being said, Sentinel Prime, just because he's the twist villain, the twist being that there's a twist, and then the twist after that being that he's not the real villain of the movie, him being the twist villain, he still could be threatening. And he's not. He is not an imposing figure at all. They try to do the inverse don't meet your heroes sort of thing, right? Because they get to meet him afterwards. The problem is that he's such a Wimpus Maximus, and he's so non-threatening. He cuts all of the threatening potential that he has
Sentinel
immediately in the first scene he's in. He has some actions in this film. Now, I'll add that this movie, it has the thing where, because technically the characters in this film are robots, you could shred and tear these things apart. You could have a lot of death, and I respected that. There's a significant death count in Transformers 1.
Yeah.
There is mutilation. There are people being decapitated and having swords being shoved through their bodies. It has real physical stakes to it. So the fact that our main villain for most of the film does not have an imposing figure is a problem. A lot of this comes from the voice acting, but also from the script. They did not write him to be a significant, imposing figure. You can have your cake and eat it too in this case. You can have the twist villain, who's not really the focus villain of the film, but you can still have him be threatening, and you can still have him be an imposing figure.
I want to.
So I have a problem with Sentinel Prime. It's not that big of a problem, because again, he's not really the focus of the film, but that doesn't mean he couldn't be better. I think he absolutely could have been better, is my point. Is there anything you want to talk about with Sentinel Prime?
Let's see, Sentinel Prime. Well, he's not supposed to be imposing like that. Remember, he's supposed to be their hero. He's supposed to be their savior. So him not being imposing is more of part of his character that they made him, rather than what he should be as a villain, because he is supposed to be a friendly savior type character, not a imposing character like Megatron would be. It would be a very different movie if Megatron was this intimidating figure and he was their savior. Then people might be fearful of him. Everybody's supposed to love him up until when we find out that he's working with the Quintessons.
I'm gonna push back on that, because I think the way that I'm going to break it down specifically, the scene that fucks this up for me is the first interaction scene after the race. You can have the character interaction, right? So you can keep him he's doing a face, right? It's an imposter revealed story, which we've seen billions of. You've seen Frozen.
Yeah.
Imposter Revealed stories, been there, done that. But the way that interaction goes, he does not... You can be, like, a positive figure, right? This is, like, pre-mask slipping, but he takes away the prowess, right? So he is the big significant hero and everything, but the way that he acts and the ways that he is voice acted removes any feeling that he's actually powerful in the way that he holds his person, you know? So you could have the thing where, like, you meet the Queen of England and she's, like, shaking your hand and dabbing, you know? She's still the Queen of England, and she could still probably have you executed, but she doesn't have any sort of imposing figure to herself. She doesn't have that prowess, that higher holding of self that makes them larger than life. And that's what this character needed.
He's not a hero, he's a coward. Remember, he betrayed the Primes, he's working for the enemies, so him not being powerful and imposing is more of part of his character, because he's a cowardly character. He is basically, they're Decepticons, because he is like the embodiment of power of one over another without saying it, because he's just, yes, I am the biggest, I am the strongest, nobody's going to question me. And he uses that to his advantage because he doesn't do fair fights. He cannot win a fair fight because he's a coward. He's never gone through one. He's always betrayed the people beside him.
So I think you can have coward characters in stories like this. It's difficult to do, but you can still have a coward character who has, like, who carries themselves publicly as still, like holding their own in a way. It's the actions are different than words sort of situation, where if he's gonna have a mask, right? If he's gonna pretend to be this big superhero sort of character, then his ability to hold that mask depends on his ability to fake it. And this guy does not fake it well. His mask is weak. And strengthening his mask, strengthening his ability to pretend to be the hero. So here's an example. Let's bring up Metro Man from Mega Man. Yeah. So Metro Man really...
Mega Man?
From Megamind. From Megamind, sorry. Metro Man really just wants to play music. His heart is not in the superhero game.
His mask is
but
like his
he fakes it. His fight scenes are not the best. But... Metro Man, when he puts on the mask to live the life he doesn't want to live, he's extremely convincing. He does so perfectly. So even if you're going to have this character who truly is a coward in their actions, just like how Metro Man won't stand up and help Mega Man take on that fight, he is a coward. Metro Man is a coward. He still holds that mask on, and that increases the dramatic potential of the scenes.
Megamind.
So by having, I can see your argument, right? I think they do have this in the way where they're trying to hint at the fact that he's a bit of a coward in the way that he holds himself, but it deflates the movie dramatically. So the cost of that truthfulness early on in his character comes at the price of making the first, like, 3/4 of the film less interesting. So I feel like I can see what you're saying. There's an argument to be made there, but the cost is way higher than the benefit that's done by being truthful in that way. So that's my thing. I feel like even if you're gonna have the twist villain, your twist villain can still appear to be the main threat and actually like imposing upon the main characters, even though that's not really the true intention of the film. And he does, like, again, the actions he takes are just what they're exactly what you need in a story like this to make him imposing. Yeah. He the shit he does to, like, now I've said the Megamind stuff and I can't think of his name. What's Megatron? The stuff he does to Megatron is cruel, and the way he treats, like, his captives is horrible. So his actions completely justify him having an imposing figure. They just did not execute one for him, and that's a bit of an L. unfortunately. It's a bit of an L. So, a bit sad about that. In terms of like the potential of this movie, it had potential for this character to come off as imposing, but they for whatever reason it may be, they did not follow up with that, which I think comes to the detriment of the film. So what's something you would like to bring up along the story of the film? What are some little beats that you'd like to bring attention
Common
to?
Sentinel Primal.
Little beats.
Common Sentinel Primal.
Yeah, so I love how they slowly hinted that D16 is going to be Megatron. So, like, let's take it from a perspective of somebody who knows the Transformers characters, knows Megatron's a Decepticon, knows that Optimus Prime's a good guy. Right from the beginning, they just set him up as Prime. This is who he's going to be with Megatronus Prime. How that's an actual character. Megatronus Prime.
Yeah,
that's what he looks like.
He has the sticker.
That is the Decepticon logo. He gives him the sticker to anybody who doesn't know. It's like, oh, that's a cute little sticker for his friend. To everybody who does know, even like people with baseline knowledge, that's the Decepticons. So like that's kind of like just foreshadowing right there to everybody who knows. And if you don't know, then you learn how he gets that.
Yeah.
Although that's not technically how he gets that, like in like most canons, in this canon, this is how he gets it, which is pretty cool.
But it works for this film. I think it works for this film.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and start talking about the real meat and potatoes of the movie then, which is the Megatron arc. So, I think early on, it's very well executed. The early stuff, again, about like him being the rule follower, and Optimus like breaking that in a way, and Optimus constantly has to convince Megatron that there is a right path that doesn't necessarily follow behind the rules. My problem comes with, unfortunately, this is the biggest unfortunately I could say about the film, is when Megatron starts his turn. I don't buy it as a member of the audience. I don't think they nailed the justification for his change. For example, like they're talking about, specifically I'm talking about the scene where Megatron is confronting Optimus and he's like, you fucked everything up for me. Everything was going just fine for my life, and at the same time, like, this is right after the finding out that Sentinel Prime's a faker.
Yeah.
And it's like, Sentinel, I hate that guy, but he starts off blaming Optimus. So at the same time that he is criticizing Sentinel for being this lie-revealed character, he's blaming Optimus, who made him come to that realization in the first place.
Yeah.
And that feels extremely contradictory. I feel like we understood Megatron as this rule-following character, and now that he found out that all the rules he was following were bullshit, I feel like we lose that character entirely. Like, he should be going through a full-fledged identity crisis, right? Because that's what should happen after, should you have your identity tied entirely to something and realize it was all a lie by one specific deceiver. You should go into a full-on, like, identity crisis. But instead, his character goes right to the disbelief and blames his best friend who helped him realize this in the first place. That felt very off-kilter for me. It felt like in that scene, he just became a different person entirely. It wasn't a gradual shift. It was very jarring. And for the Megatron stuff being the strongest emotional arc in the film, the fact that the first big turn in his character is so unbelievable, from my perspective at least, from somebody who doesn't really watch that much Transformers media, that was quite unfortunate.
I mean, it's not as if you really pay
my
attention.
leader was
Remember,
lying back
every
to Pox
time
and heads,
something
bro.
happens before, it's always Megatron blaming Optimus. You know, he got punched. I was out of line, but I was defending you. Oh, we're down here. Well, it's your fault for getting us into this mess. Like, we're down here with Bumblebee. It's your fault for getting us into this mess. It's always, Megatron is always blaming Optimus, but not really in an antagonistic way, in a way of like, you're my best friend, but you got me into this. Not a, I hate you for this.
I just,
you know,
I can't buy that I hate you isn't a character trait. It's not that like Megatron. One of Megatron's like in his bio, right? From like what describe Megatron's personality to me. I hate this guy is not a personality trait. Being a rule follower to a fault is a personality trait, and it just felt like that went entirely out of the window when it in no way, shape, or form needed to.
Never was a like rule follower to a T. It was, this is my life. It is simple. I do my job. I go to sleep. It's stuff like that. That's what he liked. He liked the simplicity. Basically, a bit of an OCD type person, or like, it's always this, is like this every day. It may not be the perfect life, but it's my life, and it's the life I live.
I'd push back on that. I like he in the movie, his whole thing is like like I got like deranked or whatnot. Yeah, specifically because I haven't seen any other media, but in this specific movie, that's exactly how he's portrayed. He's portrayed as a character that like cares about the rule of society, right? The lie of upward mobility, which is specifically important because that's some of like the stronger like social commentary in the film. It's a very like great like pro-socialism sort of message going on here. And that is a character trait ascribed to him specifically in this movie, and it just leaves when it's no longer convenient, unfortunately.
See, I know him, like, I know his, like, deep lore, and he's not this, like, and, like, how I described him is more of how he is traditionally. That's why they give him that change, because, like, traditionally, he's not this...
Only now did I realize
he's more of a, I like my life how it is, it's not perfect, but this is the life I live type character before he becomes Megatron, before he becomes power-hungry.
I would say that the rule follower character is thematically more interesting. I feel like that was a good choice for this film, but they needed to stick to that for it to mean anything. And the fact that they don't stick to it removes all meaning from the beginning of his character in the first place. So all the work they did in that first like quarter of the film goes nowhere because the character just loses it since it's not convenient. It's a challenge. Writing that transition is a huge challenge, but they make that the focus of the film while also not executing it in a satisfying way at times. So I also would like to ascribe perhaps a bit of the editing blame to this issue, because the film has to go so fast and there's no silence throughout. For like a character interaction where you're having huge contention with your best friend to the point where you become mortal enemies, silence is such a great tool. That's where you can share your discontent. You somebody that you chose to spend every single living moment with, you now no longer have any interest in doing so. You actually blame for a lot of your life problems. That's when silence can become a tool, because now you're sharing the fact that you don't want to be near this other person, while at the same fact still being forced to by your situation. So the fact that that's gone is it's really a shame. It works against the dramatic potential of the film. For example, like we're cleaning Shrek's house right now. In Shrek 2, there's the element where like Shrek and Fiona are on the road to Far Far Away, and Donkey won't shut the fuck up. And Shrek is being silent, and partially because of the awkwardness between him and Fiona, and also partially because of his frustration with Donkey at the moment, but Donkey won't shut the fuck up. So it's a great comparison to that, because like there is silence involved in that filmmaking, even though Donkey keeps interrupting it, and it adds to the dramatic effect of the sequence. And the fact that we can't have that just hurts all the more when we do have a great dramatic premise going on.
Yeah.
Bit of an L.
I do like, aside from that, like, is character progression, like I like to consider, you know how like a lot of characters, like let's say Darth Vader, you know how like a lot of people would say the moment he became Darth Vader is when he put on the mask after the injuries, after all the injuries, but some people would say no, it's when he put on the cloak is when he truly became Darth Vader. I like to imagine like his moment is not when he called himself Megatron, it's after he defeated Starscream, how he pulled out the gun from his arm, that's the moment he became the power-hungry Megatron that we know. because he no longer was this rule-following character. He was one bot over another, power-hungry.
Yeah, that, and I feel continuing the Megatron arc stuff. It just felt very jarring. It wasn't like it's the best stuff in the movie, so it should be the focus of the movie. But I feel like in trying to do this double villain sort of thing, the twist villain as I've described, they made their job more difficult, and they did not rise to that challenge
in
the way where
I don't really see Megatron as a villain, more of just the adversary at the end, because
antagonist.
He's not the one like he's more the antagonist at the end. He's less of a villain, just because like, the villain is the person doing the wrongdoings.
Yeah,
that is Sentinel Prime.
I was using villain as a shorter word for antagonist, basically. I agree.
Yeah, but it's different. I would say that Sentinel Prime's the villain, while Megatron is an antagonist, where he's the protagonist for most of the movie.
Well, they're both
up
antagonists
until the end. Yeah, he's really only the antagonist at the end of the movie when it comes down to their two ideals clashing.
Which is the strongest stuff in the film. But the way that Megatron develops his ideals, I don't buy. I feel like there needed to be more attention put onto Megatron and his arc. There needed to be more things come up within the story that justify his feeling that so essentially he becomes disillusioned with systems of power, which is a really great understandable feeling, but going straight to the only systems are bullshit and somebody will always try to scam me, directly to only I can come up with systems. Now systems are great because I'm running it. That was very drastic in the film, and I now kind of lose who Megatron is, because I don't know how he got to this assumption. It's like if you're a teacher and your student has the amount of the idea that they came up with.
He got to there when he encountered Star Screams. I don't remember what they were called. They were the protectors of the Primes. We're just gonna call them the Decepticons for this since it's easier.
Yeah,
but you know what I'm talking about.
They're the elite
It was
forces,
because of them. The elite forces, they're the ones who were saying, we believe in one bot over another.
Yeah.
Then he tries to leave, not listen to it. Starscream is like, hey, you don't leave until I say you leave. He beats him, and then he sees all the other bots cheering for him. That's when he gets the idea that, hey, this is how it should be. I should be on top. They want one bot over another. I beat their leader. That makes me their leader.
Yeah,
that's kind of how he came to that.
And I agree that that's like a good point in his story, but I think that it's not enough, is my saying. So that scene is good to help him understand that power, it means something, and that power is how rulers can come to be, and I could maybe turn that for good for myself. But I feel like in that scene, making the jump entirely to systems are okay now because I can run it, I just don't buy it as an audience member. I buy that it makes him understand the importance of power, and that is a wrong assumption he gets by later in the film. But I don't buy that it gives him this complete okay with how systems can be run. I feel like the answer he should be going to is anarchy. Not like that, so because we're talking about the film does have real life implications in terms of systems of governance and politics. It really does bring that, and that's great. That's a compliment. But the answer he should come to first would be anarchy, and I think he should see that failing and have to come to grips with the idea of the capability of systems and how people need to work together to live, right? It didn't feel natural, and there's significant points in this progression I felt were missing, frankly. So that's this is all from an outsider, which I think is a good thing, because I don't know who these characters are, so this movie has to convince me who they are, and for a lot of the part it does a good job, but that makes the parts where they don't convince me very well hurt more. So that's why I put so much significance on it. And again, whenever I talk about this film, I always I reference the Scott DeWaz quote, the cousin you love the most is the one that you're most critical of. this movie has so much potential that it makes the problems that I have with it hurt that much more. Because this has like best animated movie of the year potential to it, and I mean that like unironically. It has so much strength. It has a great premise that it's able to adapt into a what the fuck? There's a shower? Huh? Where the hell? Oh, it's this
shower.
This pot. This is what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's a shower.
Yeah. But because it has so much potential, it makes the mistakes the film does.
I'm joking.
He showers the beginning of Shrek 1.
He does, yeah.
And the All-Star sequence. He's like in the air. He's in here, and it's like he's reading the story. I mean, just like reading the story. Like, yeah, that's never gonna happen. Wipes his ass with paper and goes, "Somebody wants."
Yeah, and he's got like the.
I'm going crazy now.
He uses the bug as the toothpaste and everything. Yeah, it's a good sequence. It's a very good sequence. Outdoor.
Yeah.
Toilet roll holder. So yeah, I think that mostly by the end though, where we end up, it's still a very satisfying conclusion, I'd say. The big issues with his arc are just problems with the best part of the film, but it is still the best part of the film. It's not these smaller problems aren't so drastic that they ruin the movie for me. But it definitely is a blight against what is the strongest part of this film, like no questions asked. It is the strongest part of this movie is this great like character debate between these two like previous friends.
Yeah,
and it hurts the most that it's not executed to perfection throughout. You know. So it's a gripe, sure, but it's hopefully a constructive one.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts is in the ending, where when Megatron first turns against Optimus and he says, "I'm not saving you anymore," is a perfect line, because the first thing that Megatron does in the movie is save Optimus. Like, there's the two, what's it? I guess they would be like the guard bots. They're going after him, being like, "Hey, you shouldn't be in here. It's the millionth time you're in here. We're telling you no." And the first thing that we see Megatron do is save Optimus. So one of the last things he does before like fighting him is literally just being like, "I'm not gonna save you anymore." Is perfect.
Yeah. This is getting a little bit into
high guard with Starscream, by the way, I think.
This is getting a little bit into maybe I need to rewatch the film. It's been a bit of a minute. But
yeah,
I did remember that the conclusion of which was satisfying, and it worked well, but perhaps maybe could have been built up to a little bit stronger. So I do still enjoy overall, especially like where it ends. And I admire, because it takes a lot of like creative vision to do this in the first place, but I just feel there was more potential to make this more satisfying earlier on in the film. So there's a lot of aspiration here. There's a lot of goodwill in the making of this film. You can really, like, after you've seen a certain number of movies, you can tell how interested the person making your film is in what they're doing, you know? Are they doing this for their paycheck, or do they have a passion about this characters in this story? And they definitely are passionate about it. There's no doubt in my mind that they care about this this story. And when it came to telling like a prequel, it was not at all specifically by the creative team just to make a check, but to try to get people like me who have never really paid too much attention to Transformers as a medium to understand why people love it so much. And specifically with like trying to do the Megatron Optimus like rivalry setup, they're trying to describe what it seems to me like a lot of people's favorite part of Transformer is, which is the two of their relationship. You know, they're the main protagonist and the main antagonist. And this film is trying to sell you on that. And
People love a good
it's a
origin
high
story.
Yeah, people do love a good origin story, but it has to be a good origin story. And in terms of like writing, this is a very difficult thing to write, because stories where two characters start off as best of friends and they have like an ancillary plot to go through, but at the end they lose that friendship, are not very abundant. People tend to like to like the most common stories are the ones that where everything ends like happily ever after, and the friends become stronger through their strife. So in terms of like precedent for art, for them to draw inspiration from, there are in like more uncharted waters than many other origin stories may be. Like there are thousands of origin stories.
I thought you were my friend, bro. Here, no.
But a specific story like this is more original, and it's something that a lot of people who are fans of this franchise love. So translating that into a theatrical feature film script is not a straightforward process. But it was perhaps a bit more out of the range of these writers than what they were capable of before. So it is, in my opinion, it's a problem of having aspirations higher than your creative means, which is much more preferred than having aspirations below your creative means. A movie that cares less about the project than they're capable of making is the most miserable film experience you can have. Like knowingly creating something worse than you're capable of is thoroughly like painful. That's why that's part of why like Illumination is my least favorite animation company out there nowadays, because a lot of their media, they started off with the first Despicable Me, which is a absolutely fantastic film. It has a strong score, strong characters. The comedic relief works specifically within the story they're trying to tell. It's perfectly natural, and it is theatrically constructed, but everything after that is written like a TV special, and has the creative and like emotional depth of Planet Sheen. It is working below.
What a great comparison!
It's working below their creative means, and they're doing so because they can spend less like thought and intellectual like effort into the project and still make the same amount of money. So it's what's the word for it? It's cynical.
Lazy?
It's cynical. It's lazy, but it's also cynical. It is movies are a product. I can make the creation of making this product is a function of my time and then the reception from the audience. And really, the product doesn't need to be great. It doesn't have to. I don't have to try to make something amazing. I just have to do enough that people won't notice or care. And that's where I feel we land with most like animation films, and this is not that case. This
it's
is
lazy but works.
This is people trying to like make something that doesn't exist. You know, they're trying to tell a story in a succinct, like the Megatron Optimus Prime story exists, but not in a theatrical script format. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Like adapting a series story into a movie is a very difficult creative process, and they took on that task head on, and I have so much respect for that. But I can still note where they may be able to have done it better, and I think that's kind of where we end up here. So. Yeah. Are there other things you'd like to bring up? Any topics with the film we haven't fully touched
shows
on?
And books into this.
Let me think about it. Not really. I mean, we've talked about most of it.
Yeah.
One thing I did like about it is that most movies nowadays try to be like 2-3 hours long. Transformers 1 is an hour and a half, which kind of is good and bad. Like they could have added an extra like 20 minutes of silence, like you said before. Of just a few moments to add extra silence, to add extra tension. Yeah. Even if it's just like 30 seconds of a character not talking, 30 seconds without any dialogue.
That adds up.
Fine. Yeah, it adds up. But like, even with that, I didn't feel like a lot of movies are. It's like I'm looking at the clock, I'm ready to go. Because even if we're at the climax, I don't like sitting still for 3 hours. It's because I got ADHD, I like fidgeting. If I ever go to see movies in a theater, I always have to bring myself a fidget toy just because, like, I'm not good at sitting still because I'm, like, ADHD. I like I have energy. Despite the fact I call myself sleepy, I do have energy sometimes, but at the same time, I can't always just sit still and watch a movie for just 3 hours.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if I'm not enjoying a movie, I will just leave. Not leave, but I'll like stand up, go to the bathroom, even if I don't have to, just to stretch my legs, get myself a break from like sitting down, because it's a movie I'm not like all too invested in. And Transformers 1, it wasn't too long. The story had me invested, especially since like I like the story. I'm a Transformers fan. And so it didn't make me want to just like get up and leave, like walk, to not like have to sit through it. So it's like having a movie like that for me is good. I keep because long movie. Not many movies I've seen that are long movies deserve to be that long.
I think that's like partially with the editing choices. I think the idea is to placate more to people like yourself, but I think what they do by making this like agreement that because people need to be like they need to be sensationally like fulfilled at a certain level throughout the entire film, what they end up doing is insulting your art comprehension ability. So, for example, if you did step out, like let's say you're watching Oppenheimer, it's a 3-hour film or so, and you do step out and you come back to the movie does not build in pee breaks in their story, because they understand that you as an audience member, if you feel like you didn't fully grasp the message that the film was trying to say, then you would go back and watch it, and you would go back and try to make an attempt to understand what they're trying to show. So you're just because you have like attention issues that may make our art appreciation difficult, that doesn't mean that your art comprehension skills are lower. And I think that's the problem that we get into, is that art comprehension and attention are not related concepts. Your ability to appreciate... I know people who would sit through a 5-hour film, but would come out the other side like never having to like pee, or never like taking their eyes off the screen, but would never come out the other side actually understanding what they're trying to say. And they're not related concepts, but trying to convince that to a board of executives it's a difficult thing to pitch, is what I'm trying to say. It's a difficult thing to pitch, which is very unfortunate. In terms of like similar films that seem like that would easily fall into this problem but don't, I would recommend Turning Red. Turning Red is a very recent film. It came out during the pandemic, and it is a fantastic movie. It follows a teenager who would have like similar like attention like issues, and maybe it would like make sense for you to present the film in that way, but it still is so incredibly emotional and has extremely high tension, and like similar to Transformers 1 is about like the conflict between people who do love each other, and it's so fantastic. I cannot recommend Turning Red any higher. I think that's like about a 9 for me. That film is amazing. It's a masterpiece, gorgeous. It's hilarious. The comedy comes from within the world of the story and not through exterior means like shit and fart jokes. And I just cannot recommend the film more. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I haven't seen it.
Definitely want to check out. It is... It's something that I feel like everybody can take something away from. It's got a large influence of like Asian culture, which I think a lot of people it's very relevant to. It's got great undertones of like immigration and that sort of lifestyle. It's got great elements of friendship within it. Friendship's a very important theme, but also I feel like the element that does the best, which is the primary theme throughout the film, is like parental relationships when you're changing as a person, like how your relationship with your parents will shift over time because you shift over time. The person you are changes with time, and that can and is always contentious. That is a difficult path to walk, and the film portrays that beautifully. So absolutely recommend. In this discussion of Transformers 1, I will recommend Turning Red. That film's fantastic.
How about, would we recommend Transformers 1?
Yeah. So getting back on topic, I would recommend Transformers 1. For me, it's a 7 out of 10. To me, a 7 is like, that's where I would call a film really good. A 6 is good. A 7 is really good. Transformers 1 is really good. There's always something visually for you to pay attention to, specifically with the kinetics of the animation, not necessarily the style. The story has its downfalls, but the central core of it still comes across without being too adulterated.
Yeah.
I would say that it is quite easily enjoyable from both parents and children. How about yourself?
Oh, I would give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
My standards are not as high as yours. I recognize it's not a perfect 10 out of 10 movie. I couldn't give it a 9 out of 10 because there are things about it I don't like. But there's a lot of it I do like.
Speaking
so I give it an 8.
Red,
I do agree that it's for
Megatron's does too.
a good movie for like children and adults. Like when I saw it, I saw it with my dad and my little brother. My dad is in his 40s. My little brother, I think, is like 8. I'm a bad big sister. I don't remember how old he is. But the idea is that all three of us, me, someone who's 18, he, someone who's 18,
I forged they weren't
he,
red
somebody
at the start.
who's in his 40s. I'm also a bad child. I don't remember dad's birth. I don't know how old my dad is. But anyways, are all different people, different ages, different knowledges of Transformers. My dad's knowledge of Transformers is just the movies. I know like a good amount of the comic stuff because I've like read about it. I've read like 2 comics, but I've watched a lot of lore videos on like Transformers and stuff because I like Transformers lore. My little brother, I don't think he's seen many Transformers movies. I know he used to watch some of those like Transformers cartoons for like little kids, you know, like, and then so like all three of us had different knowledges going in, but we all understood the movie of like, this is Megatron, this is Optimus, this is how they went from being basically just kids to who they are now.
Yeah. I think that really does come across well to all different audiences, and I'm really happy to hear that. And I'm glad to hear from a perspective I don't know, which is somebody who is a fan of the franchise.
I'm just the
that
movie
it
and Transformers
well
Prime show guy, but we get what this is.
I'm very glad. I'm glad to hear that. So yeah, definitely recommend Transformers 1. I think that's a solid film. I would be very interested to watch a sequel to this, specifically because of how well the creative team did with this film. Not necessarily because the movie really builds itself up well for a prequel. I would love to see how they tackle these intercharacter relationships.
There's a sequel
in a different format. I don't think there is a sequel.
Okay,
go ahead.
So it is not. It's a movie without a prequel. It's not a prequel movie. It's an origin story movie, but it can also be considered a prequel movie because of how general its story is. Its story is just how Megatron and Optimus first became who they are. So if you wanted to, you could apply it to the old Transformers cartoons, which is like kind of the style they're going for with their characters, as like you can see, because Megatron, like especially with Megatron, he looks very much like the Megatron from the old cartoons rather than the Megatron from the live action movies. But no matter like what movies or what media you saw, you can use it as a reference point for a prequel to any of them.
We want a sequel to it, but like how it will be,
not a
be the
prequel
question.
movie. Like, let's say they make a new set of Star Wars movies that are not connected to the ones we have now, but they still have the same characters. That you could probably not put the sequel trilogy in with that, because that was made specifically for the like movies that were already made, while this is just a general like origin story of the characters.
So, Hawk, what do you say? Like, how will it be? I think really you can come up with any combination of characters within this universe. Probably like go to a different planet or something. Maybe, I don't know. But the fact is that like, I think in terms of prospects for the sequel, it's not really the financials. I think financially the movie's doing okay, but not great. I think the likelihood of a sequel being higher is because of maybe like critical reception to this film, as well as the fact that Hasbro's trying to maximize whatever they're gonna whatever they've got, you know. And I feel like just by the fact that this movie was received well, and Hasbro is working with a little bit of limited IP, they will try this again with the same team. So I just want to share that I would be interested in a follow-up to this. Again, not specifically because the story, not because the story was really built up to be continued, but because I'm interested, positively intrigued on what this same creative team can accomplish in the future. And if they make a movie that's even better than this one, I will be sure to learn their names. That's how this goes.
They have to make at least 2 good movies.
I'm okay with the sequel happening, but won't die for it.
Yeah, I think I'm all the same. Like Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, their first project was Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and then they went to the Lego Movie, and then they went to the Spider-Verse movies, and so then after after the second time they did that, you're good. After the second time they popped out a full-on masterpiece. They became creative sources that I decided to learn the names of. So if this same creative team pops out a sequel and it's as high quality, if not better, than this movie is, then I'd be very happy. Because again, my optimism comes from the fact that the flaws with this film are more with the story has more potential, but more demands than they were capable of meeting, and less that they just chose not to work that hard. So, yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic of anything future in this specific franchise of Transformers. It is a huge IP, so if they can continue it in a profitable manner, then I do believe it could still maintain a strong creative voice behind it, too. So yeah, I am cautiously optimistic with it. I also would not hate if they recast Optimus Prime after this one. Not gonna lie. Kind of fuck Chris Hemsworth. He's not a great voice actor, and this is his attempt to pretend to be one, and it did not work well. So if they go forward, you can recast Chris Hemsworth. I don't think many people will whine about that. Got no problem with that.
It would make sense to recast him after this.
Yeah.
Because they went for a O'Brien Pax voice. Now they need a Optimus Prime leader
just like
voice.
Optimus Prime before he became Optimus Prime.
I am cautiously optimistic Prime. So, additional thing, do we want to maybe put it out to some Q&A? Does anybody have any questions for the two of us?
Do you viewers want to ask anything?
Yeah, any comments that you have about the film that you'd like to share, or any questions you want to ask us? Yeah. I'll give you a second while I'm satisfyingly cleaning up all these tubes. Look at this tube gameplay. Ooh.
This is satisfying what I'm doing. It's this rotated, and I'm just kind of holding my gun on it and just...
Oh, nice.
Letting it spin.
It sounds satisfying. I'm satisfied by just you describing it. This scene is great. I fucking love Shrek 2. This is the scene where Shrek and Donkey infiltrate the potions factory by pretending to be union auditors. They don't even have dental. That's where this whole that whole sequence comes from. It's great. I mentioned last time we did this that I got to see Shrek 2 in theaters for its re-release this year, and that was fucking awesome.
Nice.
Movie bangs. That's a 10. That's a masterpiece. Unironically, on every level, fantastic. Talk about threatening villains. The fairy godmother is an S-tier villain. She's fantastic. She has such an imposing figure. So if you want to make a compare contrast,
I absolutely love the movie. It's what I watched on theaters. I like the origin story, the story, and such. And my only question after the
Unicron.
Yeah, so that's a question for you then. Not for me, local Transformers fan.
Shrek 2 wasn't for me, the same one was.
Shrek 2. Okay, so Unicron is basically Unicron. That's not Primus. Oh crap. Let me look up Unicron real quick.
Well, you do that.
I'm a bad fan.
Hawk, if you want to share why you don't like Hawk Shrek 2, I'd like to have a I'd like to go deeper into that because I'm very passionate about it.
Primus.
Enemy of Primus. Primus was mentioned in that movie. I don't remember.
Primus is Cybertron.
Okay, so Primus is the original Prime. He's basically Primus was the one who turned into the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Unicron.
He had the core that's like the thing of justice and all that is pure. Whatnot gobbledygook.
So Primus pretty much was
Unicron
this
is
giant
Earth in some
transformer.
movies and others he just exists.
Yeah, in Earth. So like in this movie specifically, Primus is the original Prime. He turned into their world. This is pretty cool. I can walk in the hamster wheel.
You can't? Sick.
Yeah, he transformed into Cybertron, and then created the original Primes to be the protectors of Cybertron, because he knew there were threats out there that the regular people could not take. But Unicron is, I guess, the anti, I believe.
The yin to the yang.
Yeah.
Antithesis,
yeah. Yeah, he's basically the anti Cybertron, the anti Primus.
Gotcha.
I believe. I don't know much about Unicron lore. I know more about like Optimus Prime Megatron lore.
Ad hoc Unicron being Earth is a very hilariously grim premise. Thanks, Michael Bay and Egderb.
Real quick moment, since we're having a discussion about Transformers. Can we all say in unison, 3, 2, 1, fuck Michael Bay?
Fuck Michael Bay.
I hate that guy. I don't care that he produced this movie, which I like. That guy's a piece of shit. Alright.
So do we want to finish this room out?
Well, we're at like 41% complete, so, we can go on to some more
Michael
like
Bay, the first movie was alright.
Yeah, but as a creative voice, he's kind of the opposite of what I was talking about when it comes to like again cynicism in a film. For every movie I've seen of his, I felt dirty and like I wanted to take a shower afterwards. He makes his movies for the action scenes. He does not make the movie to have a strong emotional impact on you. So whether or not he had that with the first movie, I hadn't seen, but from every movie subsequent after that I've seen from him, felt extremely cynical and very gross. Lots of sequences.
I'm going on a ride.
And, like this also goes beyond just like a full movie. It also applies to individual sequences. So shit like Shia LaBeouf talking about the Romeo and Juliet clause so we can bang his cousin is very grody and very icky. And when you film Megan Fox and you shove the camera right in her crack, that's not great. I didn't like that. Men and women both have like that like sex appeal element, but you just shoved your camera up the female lead's crack, huh? So that's why you have this actress in your movie? Really? That's so telling. It's not comfortable. It's not something that I want to see in the lead creative for any movie that I am watching. It's bad vibes gives me the ick. That's my mini Michael Bay rant. Don't like the guy. Don't want to watch his art. I don't support him.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Except by watching this movie that he technically produced.
No wonder Megatron hated humans in that movie.
Yeah, no wonder. If a Transformers' first introduction to humans was Michael Bay, then I will understand if they want to eliminate all of our life. That's fine.
I mean, if we're not talking about robots that don't want to eliminate humans, we're going to talk about Ultron.
Oh, are we talking about Age of Ultron?
It can be. So Age of Ultron isn't exactly a villain. He's a robot following his programming. See, the reason why Ultron is some iterations good, some iterations bad, I don't mean like good written, I mean like good character, is because the Age of Ultron's objective was to protect Earth, and and he reads Earth as the worst thing for Earth is humans.
Thank you, Empire
which we all know
Records, for planting a
we
seed
are the
in
worst
me
thing
being
for
interested
we're
in
polluting,
Transformers.
we're killing the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, other Ultrons that are quote unquote good, like you'll see Ultron and like did you see Multiverse of Madness?
I did, unfortunately.
So you know the alternate universe where Ultron's helpful.
Well,
That Ultron's objective.
I think you're talking about What If.
What If? No, Multiverse of Madness, where
that happened in
Doctor
Multiverse of
Strange.
Madness?
No, it did. When Doctor Strange and America,
Chavez.
what was her name?
America Chavez.
Chavez go to the alternate universe with the Illuminati.
Oh.
There's Ultrons all around. Those robot suits, those are all Ultrons.
I forgot about that.
The reason why those ones work is because that Ultron's objective is to protect all human life, versus protect the planet. Those are two very different things to an AI. To us, if I were to tell you a superhero protect the Earth, you would know I mean protect all the humans on it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To an AI, that is protect this planet. Doesn't matter what happens to everything else. I have to protect this space rock.
To me, I feel like the Age of Ultron, like Avengers arc and everything. So first off, when you're talking about whether or not the you can have like initial programming, but we are kind of getting into a very like unsettled debate of like sentience for artificial intelligence. But I think what you can be said is like what
Imagine
the initial
Ultron
like
protecting
programming,
Unicron.
like the initial prompt for an AI, that is a human decision. That is a that is a thing that the AI cannot be blamed for. But honestly, what it kind of comes down to is a worse version of the Injustice storyline, which is the attempt to prevent crime before it happens. So, in any way, shape, or form, it is trying to be like a continuation of that. He still is at least the antagonist of that movie because his solution to save the Earth is by killing all life on it. But it is, I don't even really want to talk much about that specific storyline because it is really just a different story that was told better there. So, pass on the whole Age of Ultron thing. I've got my sibling really likes Age of Ultron, but I don't think any of the elements they really like about it come from the pathos of Ultron himself, you know?
More of the, oh my god, all the Avengers together is so cool!
Yeah, exactly. So, build up to Civil War stuff, which honestly I think was overall just a significantly better movie. Not a perfect one, but a significantly better one. So, I could, as like a part of our wrap-up, I could talk a little bit about some of the other movies out in theaters now that you can go see that we probably won't make an episode on. So just like little quick bites. I prefer
saw Age of Ultron over Civil War.
Yeah, I can see that. So different movies are out right now. This past weekend, Conclave came out. That's a movie about the Pope has died, and the cardinals have to come together in the Holy Roman Church to pick a new pope. So it's a very like political movie, and by like the raw like Webster definition of the term, being that it's a bunch of people campaigning for like popes have died before, but the world hasn't ended in Conclave. But the whole thing, like the Webster dictionary definition of politics being like arguments of personality, and I feel it's a really solid film. I haven't given it I recommend it. It has a lot of like really deep discussion to be had within it, but I don't feel like all of the elements that it's trying to bring up are like established perfectly. It's a movie that really is more about starting discussions than it is to be one about.
Sounds like it's gonna be woke.
It's like it's not really trying to argue a specific point of view. It's more trying to bring up a debate for you to have with yourself, like a difficult circumstance that you have to piece through on your own. And I can respect that, but in the way to like accomplish that, I feel like they made some missteps that could have made this like internal like debate stronger. So recommend that one. I can't really even rate it because I'm still thinking about like how does one even judge a film that isn't trying to tell you anything. But yeah, interesting movie. I recommend it. It's very well acted and very interesting. I also saw We Live in Time, which is the Andrew Garfield, Florence Pugh. It's a part of this genre that I would call cancer sex movies. So that's a movie where it's like a Hallmark film where it's rated R and its primary audience are middle-aged women, and it's trying to tell this great love story, but then all this tragic shit happens and it makes you cry. It's a well-defined genre. There's a lot of different movies that follow that description. This one is really solid. Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh are both fantastic in the film. They're both like powerhouses. They're some of the best actors, I think, like working today. They're both absolutely fantastic. Their performances are extremely emotional, very well done. My big problem with that film on its own is that it's really trying to do nothing special aside from just being another cancer sex movie. It's kind of unfortunate. The movie doesn't really have much it wants to say, and what it does try to say is not very special. So it's a very well executed but like oddly limited film. So that's a 7 out of 10 for me. I recommend that film, but it's not something that I'm going to be thinking about very much. It's not something I have thought much about after I've seen it, and it doesn't really engage me in a way that makes me want to pursue understanding it better. And then one last film that I saw this past week, which I highly recommend. This is like top 5 of the year for me. Is Memoir of a Snail. It's a stop motion film about these two children whose parents die, and they enter the Australian foster system, and it's a very like tragic story. It has a lot of like darker tones in it, but it's also very irreverent. So the characters they curse a lot. They're very foul mouthed. They speak openly against the world around them, the situations that they're in. It's focused around themes of like hoarding. The main character, her problem, she expresses her trauma through her hoarding, and it's something that helps her stabilize herself. And it becomes a problem in her life, and she and her friends help her cope with that, help her try to grow out of this dangerous pattern of behavior. It's an absolutely beautiful film, truly gorgeous. I compare it to it's like a Charles Dickens novel meets like a golden age Tim Burton. It's an independent stop-motion movie made in the year 2024, which is absolutely wild because these films are extremely expensive to make. It's got an excellent art style to it, very crass, and very, sensuous, too. The story is mostly around a very young character, but the world around her isn't very it doesn't protect with a foster care sort of story. The worst of the world is not protected to these children, and it made me cry. It was very well done. I have some problems with maybe it being a bit too preachy towards the end, but overall I highly recommend the film. That's an 8 from me. Memoir of a Snail. Go check that one out. You don't necessarily need to see that in theaters, but it's not a movie to miss. I hope sincerely that it gets as of right now, from all the animated movies I've seen this year, that's my pick for best animated feature. Thanks for letting me rant a little bit about the different movies I've seen this week. But I just want to share, what's in theaters and what I recommend checking out. Oh, I also saw Venom 3. Yeah. It's shit. Don't see Venom 3.
But I like the first two.
The first one I enjoyed, but mostly laughing at the movie, not much laughing with it. It's very goofy, very hard to take seriously, and if I described Venom 3 in one word, it would be tired. It's a very tired film. All the actors are just hitting these same
Perfect
studio
for
notes.
Me. I'm sleepy.
It's if you want to see a movie that is just like a bird ate up and spat into your mouth a bunch of other movies you've already seen already, but with some curse words, that's Venom 3. So if that's what you're looking for,
love curse words.
Yeah, if you want to see a worse version of Monsters versus Aliens, but with the word "fuck" in it, then go check out.
I think that'd be a perfect movie though if Monsters vs. Aliens was allowed to swear.
Yeah, imagine Monsters vs. Aliens would have been better with the fuck word in it. I agree. So yeah, so in terms of discussions for next time, Sherry, did you want to take a look maybe at the list of movies we have?
It's your turn to pick.
It's my turn to pick. That's right. So
remember, I picked this one, so you picked the next one.
So trying to think of like what could give us some diversity. So we've done an animated film this week. We've done some horror. We've done a comedy film. Well, I don't know. Evil Dead.
What the fuck do you mean if I am late, I'm dead?
I can't take it seriously as a horror movie.
Yeah, Evil Dead 2 isn't really a serious horror film. So maybe that's what we do next week. We do a serious horror film a little bit late on the Halloween train. But how about we finally do Annihilation next week? How does that sound? That's a Natalie Portman horror movie plus what's the word for it? It's gosh, there's a specific type of film that like fucks with your mind.
Psychological horror.
Yeah, it's psychological sort of horror. Yeah, and it's also very like it's very like cosmic. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but watch the movie and we will discuss that next week on Monday. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's about all I've got for this week. Yeah. Do you have anything else to add, Shirley?
My life is psychological horror.
Well,
I'm a very head empty type person, you know, so I don't have anything insightful like you do.
What? No, you've added plenty of insight today. I think this is a great conversation. I'm happy to talk about this movie. I really do recommend it.
So you're the film critic. I'm the hey, I like movies. Let me talk about it type person.
Yeah, well, I think everybody's perspective is important, and mine is not the only one that matters. So I'm happy that we spent this time and we had a bit of a debate over some things we disagree about. But yeah, we both recommend
it's honestly a good thing that we don't agree on everything, because then it's just us talking about good stuff without any bad, and a bunch of bad without any good. So I think it's perfect that we don't agree on everything.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because then it's just us sucking the cock of Optimus Prime.
Yeah, which can be nice in the right time in the right place, but for a discussion about art, we want to be fair and balanced.
Yeah.
So yeah,
keep in mind I'm going to do that after we turn off stream, but
yeah, we don't have to talk about that right now.
Panic, roar, saint, panic, roar, saint, panic, roar, saint, panic, roar, saint, panic.
So yeah, well, thank you everybody for joining us on our conversation.
Do we want to finish this, or are we going to end stream?
I think we'll end stream here. We can come back to this next week, because this is another like 45 minutes. On Optimus MMMM. And we've had most of our conversation. So yeah, well, thank you everybody for joining.
Sucking on Optimism.
Thanks everybody for joining. So we do as of recently we've been doing the podcast like every other Monday. But the goal is to do it every Monday. So
just scheduling's not always the best for either of us.
Yeah, but so as of right now, the plan next Monday we'll talk about Annihilation. So if you haven't seen that film, absolutely go check it out, and that way you'll be informed for next session.
Yeah.
Trigger warnings for that movie. Oh gosh. If you don't watch a lot of gruesome horror, and body horror is a problem for you, I think body horror is a trigger for that film. Also, if you're homophobic, you won't like it. Yeah.
Oh, dang it. I can't watch it. I'm homophobic.
Yeah. So I think,
dang it.
That's my piece for now.
Okay, I find it funny.
I love Saw. I think this will work out fine.
I found a lesbian pride flag in my house.
Oh, really?
It was on top of my washer, and seeing how it can't be my brother and it's not mine, I think that means my mom found it and brought it home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. So I get a wave a flag. I technically kind of fall under
pronouns.
homophobic.
/J.
I think a thing to say in terms of what Annihilation brings to the table in terms of movies we haven't discussed already is that it's a movie without a definite like message, like end to it. Like it ends very nebulously, and there's a lot of movies like that where there's a lot of different ways you can interpret it. Like shit hits the fan catastrophically, and it's not fully explained. So I feel like Annihilation will be an interesting comparison to a lot of films you've seen recently. Very different in that way. So I'm excited to talk about it with you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Take care. Have a great evening. Stay safe.
I'll see you later, everyone.
Yes. All right.
Actually, wait. Let's raid somebody before I'm gonna raid my buddy.
Oh, okay. I don't know
if he's still alive.
I don't know how to do.
You don't know how to do raid?
Yeah, I don't know how to. Let me.
You don't have Raid Shadow Legends installed?
I don't have Raid Shadow Legends installed. Let me see. Do you have a name for the person you're gonna raid? I can raid them.
/raid, and you know that part, right?
Yeah.
The cheesy with a Z whiz. Let me just copy and paste the name.
Yeah, I'll take that.
That'd be easier. There we go.
Appreciate it. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a great day and take it easy. Bye-bye.
See you all. Bye-bye.